If you are in a situation at the moment that you know that you want to grow past or evolve beyond at some point, maybe today is the day where you just start connecting in with yourself and really thinking about what could be possible for you. Your soul is waiting for you to make that realization. And once you do and say, yes, I'm ready for a change, the new possibilities will start to present themselves to you. Hey girlfriend, welcome to the Curl Power Podcast with me, your host, Zoe Fox. My mission is to help women all around the world realise just how great they are. I really want to see you maximising your talent and potential and truly realise just how much you can shine in both your personal and your professional life. We like to get to the core of who you really came here to be, beyond societal expectations, trauma, outdated behaviour patterns, limiting beliefs and job titles. I use an integrative approach, connecting counselling skills, coaching, intuition and metaphysical ideas to help to connect you to who you really came here to be. A few years ago, I sustained a life-changing spinal cord injury, and that injury totally changed my life and my perspective. As a human being, I'm a trauma survivor who has dealt with acute PTSD, grief, generalised anxiety disorder and agoraphobia. As a woman, I felt the impact of long-term infertility, the joy of conceiving naturally, and the struggle of a traumatic birth. As a business person, I spent 12 years in the banking industry where I never really felt at home, but totally ignored my gut and ended up staying there and feeling stuck. Then, after a couple of redundancies, I finally got the hint from the universe and then moved on into a world I love, which is tapping into my creativity. I helped to set up an award-winning digital marketing agency before later starting this podcast and doing the work that I'm doing now with women to help them to really connect with their potential. So I know what it means to struggle, but I also know what it means to not only cope with this, but to thrive beyond these challenges. I've been through things that a lot of women go through, often feeling quite alone. So that's why now I'm using my voice. I'm standing up and being seen, despite the limiting voices that try to want to keep me small, just so I can say to you guys, sis, I feel you. And I'm here to try and help you to come through it too. And not only come through it, but like totally shine on the other side of it. Now, we do live in a world that is filled with opportunity, but if you're lacking in confidence and self-belief, it's really difficult to make the most of the opportunities that are out there. So I want to drag you, even if it's kicking and screaming, into a life that I know is possible for you. Now, my sister, I know the self-discovery is not always going to be an easy path to travel, but I promise you it's going to be so worth it. So, my friend, if you are currently feeling disconnected, underconfident, undetermined, or marginalised, this is the place where you can feel heard and where you can help yourself to heal and discover what you need to know about yourself so that you can unleash this incredible version of you on the world, because Lord knows the world needs more amazing women like you, standing in your truth, in your authenticity and in your power. Now, we've got listeners in over 60 countries. How deep is that? So imagine now women all across the world doing this work and evolving into the greatest version of themselves. Imagine the world, man, when we are all standing in our power. So come and find me on Instagram at zoe.e.fox. And if you do find any joy or light in this podcast, please share it with a friend that needs it. And please feel free to give us a little rating and a review on either Spotify or Apple. It's truly appreciated. If you are at a point in your life where you are ready to commit to making a change, one of the things that has really helped me to make my own personal transformation is by implementing a series of daily habits. So I've created a free gift for you, which I think if you use it consistently, it's going to help you to get results. It is called Manifest Your Perfect Day the Night Before. It's basically a daily reflection template that's going to help you have a more intentional day ahead. And if you're constantly mindful about stepping into the day intentionally, you're going to amaze yourself at what you can achieve for yourself. So this template helps you to create healthy habits that are going to connect you back to yourself at the end of the day, so you can step into tomorrow feeling grateful, clear and confident. Forming these sorts of habits are going to help you to beat procrastination and start living with purpose and clarity. And that is when you're going to see your life transform. So you can get that from the website. It's a downloadable PDF and the link will be in the show notes. Or you can just visit the Curl Squad website and you will see the Manifest Your Perfect Day Planner in the menu and you can download it from there. So a couple of episodes back, I did an episode called Honour the Cycle, and it's all about how nature is a master teacher and healer and how we're so overstimulated in our life that often we don't even notice the therapy that is around us. So I'll link that in the show notes and you can go and check that out. So in that episode, I was just talking a little bit about how our own life reflects that of nature and the different cycles that happen in nature. So in this episode, I want to focus on the rebirth, again, another part of the cycle of life. We're in autumn now. The leaves are really turning a rich, beautiful golden colour. Some beautiful oranges about. I just love the colours of leaves. Plants are my guys and the trees are my friends. I just love how much they can teach us if we really slow down and connect into them and their cycles. They've been a huge part of my healing journey, so I always have to give love, honour and respect to the trees. So yeah, I suppose you could call me a tree hugger, and some people might laugh at that, but connect with the cycle of a tree, you'll be hugging trees too. So, rebirth. What does rebirth mean to you? What would rebirth look like to you? If you think about where you are at the moment, are you happy, confident and comfortable with your life as it stands? Or are you recognising that there's places that you could grow and evolve? If you're listening to this podcast, you're most likely thinking about ways that you can improve your life and enhance your life experience. You might be in the thick of some difficulties at the moment and you don't necessarily know where to start. Or you might have been putting in the work for some time now to improve your state of mind, your experience. One of the greatest revelations I had in my life was the realisation that I didn't have to stay as the person that I was when I was going through my most difficult times. I honestly thought that I was who I was. All of the things that I'd experienced in life that somewhat hardened me, somewhat killed my vibe, made me very anxious, made me very depressed. I thought that was me. The moment I started to realise that I did have some say in how I experience life. That's not to say that you can control the things that happen to you, because that's life. Stuff's going to happen. But once you start to realise that you can control how you interact with these things that happen, and sometimes it's really difficult stuff, much like when I had my spinal cord injury a couple of years ago. It's not lightweight stuff, you could lose someone you love, lose a job, get into financial difficulties, break up with a friendship circle that you've always known. Whether or not we like to admit it to ourselves, whether or not we're ready to admit it to ourselves, is we have the ability to control how we perceive our experience. And it's not always going to be easy. And it can take some time because we're so programmed by our experience in the society that we live in. Often the idea of thinking that you can change your experience if you've been struggling for many years can just feel like totally out there, like something that's not achievable. But I promise you, with consistent action and reflection, you can totally transform your life. Going through my most painful moments certainly made me stop and think about life, what I want from life. The difference being, in my more recent challenges, like with my spinal cord injury, because I've been putting in this work for some time now, I was able to see that whilst this situation had happened to me, it was within my control as to how I responded to it. And it's not always been easy. There have been a lot of tears, and there still are tears. I'm not sitting here like some holier than thou wannabe guru that is trying to say to you that life is perfect. It's not, but it's about accepting that, acknowledging that, and seeing how we can make the most of life despite those things. So over the years of doing this internal work to try and deprogram myself from the anxiety, the depression, the limiting beliefs, I've spent quite a lot of time visualising who I want to become. And it's really helped me to identify the behaviours and the circumstances that are not supporting that evolution. I get it. I get how difficult it is when you're held back by internalised limitations. Not only internalised, but societal ones too. And with practical things like financial difficulties, it's one of those taboo subjects, isn't it, that people are too embarrassed to talk about. Everybody wants to project this idea of having everything in control. Very few people want to actually speak out about money difficulties. And there's been points in my life where I've really struggled financially. But I wanted to set out to prove to myself how I could transform my life from living in poverty, from being anxious, being depressed and hopeless, into something different. Something that felt like I was really stepping into life to experience it in the way that it was intended. Now, don't get me wrong, having money and coming from privilege doesn't mean that you don't have your problems. Nobody is immune from things coming up in life. But with wealth and with privilege, you can take yourself off to a retreat to decompress and ponder life. Or you can buy up some coaching to help you work through it. Pay for some counselling to help you clear your mind. Buy all the books, tools and resources you need to develop yourself. Buy the organic food, the green juices, all the stuff that's going to nourish you at a cellular level. When you don't have that, and you are concerned about how you're going to get from, let alone 1 month to the next, 1 day to the next, when you're looking in your bank account and there's 21 pence, and you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for the electric, how you're going to feed yourself, how you're even going to get to work the next day. Imagine being in poverty and still being in full-time work. There's no doubt that wealth makes knowledge much more accessible. Last month was quite significant for me because I made the last payment on a debt that I've been paying off for over 10 years. I've been with my current husband for over 10 years, and this debt was a legacy debt from an abusive relationship that I was in. So that gives you an idea as to how long that debt's been going on. So that was a real significant milestone for me, and one that at one point I thought I would never get to. I remember when I was in the throes of trying to get out of all this debt and sort it all out, I felt like I was sinking. My anxiety was peak. I wasn't having a good time. I was just living in fear and anxiety about all these letters that were coming in through my door from debt collectors. Terrified of the phone ringing and fighting your way out of the poverty trap. It's not easy. And this goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I've mentioned in a previous episode. When you're fighting for your basic survival, it's really difficult to work on nurturing your mental state. Survival mode is a real thing. And, I've noticed in my own behaviour, even now, that there's still patterns of survival mode that I've been dealing with. So I've been so used to mentally thinking and feeling as though I have to work hard to get myself out of this situation. That pattern just kept playing over and over again until it led me to total burnout just before my spinal cord injury. I thought that by working harder, putting in more hours, staying at my desk as long as possible was going to help me to get out of the financial challenges, when actually I was just being a busy fool. I wasn't giving myself the time and space to think about more creative ideas that could help me to improve my situation. Instead, I was just running straight into burnout. And even whilst I'm now in this phase of my healing journey, there's still that part within me that wants to keep going and get to the desk and It's counterproductive. The best thing that I could be doing right now is taking a step back from putting that extra pressure on myself, going more with the flow of life, which now I must say I am getting into, and focusing on my healing journey. Now, I've always been very forthcoming in these podcasts about my experience, and I know some people will be like, oh, you're sharing quite a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but why pretend to be anything other than I'm not? When there's other women out there that are struggling with exactly the same thing. And if I can get out of my comfort zone to say, you know what, yeah, this is my circumstance, and that helps another woman to think, oh, me too. It's not just me that's going through this difficulty. So me stepping up and saying, you know what, sis, I have been there. That was my reality too. But this is where I am now. I just hope that that might motivate or incentivize someone else out there to just have a little bit of faith in the journey, to not lose hope, and to keep on keeping on. Because I know how bleak it can get. Trust me. I got to that point in my life, as many of you will know, because if you're a regular listener to the podcast, where I just wanted to cease to exist. If I could have spontaneously combusted and moved on into the afterlife, I would have been very happy. And that's really sad now, to be at this point in my life where I've put the work in, you know, I am feeling good about my life. I am consciously creating the life that I want now. And I do have peace of mind. And I've got all the tools in my toolbox to help me to bring an overactive, worried, anxious mind back into the present. But at one point I didn't have any of that. And if any of this resonates with you, if you are in a situation at the moment that you know that you want to grow past or evolve beyond at some point, maybe today is the day where you just start connecting in with yourself and really thinking about what could be possible for you. Your soul is waiting for you to make that realization. And once you do, and once you invite that in and say, yes, I'm ready for a change, the new possibilities will start to present themselves to you. You kind of go from living in tunnel vision to like taking off. It's like horses, those blinkers or whatever that horses wear that block out the peripheral vision. It's like all of a sudden we get to this point in our life and we say, you know what, I'm tired of just focusing on this aspect of my life. Let me take these glasses off, these blinkers off, and see what else is possible. You stop, you breathe, you connect with yourself, you take that moment to take those blinkers off, and you're like, wow, all of this stuff is out here waiting for me to discover it. And I've just been so focused on this particular aspect of my life and my existence, I didn't even realise this stuff was out there. And now when I think back over my life at the points where I felt the weakest, I start to think, man, you were strong, you know. You were strong. When you thought you were weak, you were actually incredibly strong and determined. Despite the pain, you kept on going. And it feels good to be here in 2022 to sit back and reflect and just think about all the things that I've risen above. Not only risen above, but like thrived beyond. So if you've got that little voice within you that is saying that you're worth more than this, and there is that something within you, even though you might feel weak and helpless right now, there's something in you that is driving you and pushing you through one day to the next. It's about harnessing that. It's harnessing that power, realising it for the power that it really is, and then consciously manipulating that power to turn it into something more fruitful, instead of it just being the survival mode. Use that same set of energy to get into the flourish mode. All it really takes is a change in your perception of how you perceive your experience. If you feel at the moment as though you're just getting up out of bed and just getting through the next day, like, see that for what it is. See that determination for what it is, that resilience for what it is. Yes, it's another day, and despite the fact that it feels less than ideal, you're still getting up, you're still going for it. Today's the day where you start to do things a little bit differently. Today's the day when you start to see yourself as the powerful human being that you really are, with the potential to create what you want to create in your life. Like I said, I'm still on my journey. I'll be on this journey until my life on this planet ceases to exist. So if you stick with this podcast and you stick with me, just know that you're always going to have everything that I'm going out and learning. I'm always going to be bringing it back to this podcast so that you can learn and grow with me. I know that if I continued to do the things that I always used to do, I couldn't expect to be anywhere different than where I was. But the minute I started implementing small changes into my life, nothing revelationary really, nothing that deep, small practices, but consistent practices that have got the power to totally overhaul your experience. So if you're listening to this and you do recognise that there's something within you that wants to grow, evolve and change beyond your current experience, you need to be prepared to start taking action. Otherwise, you'll still be listening to this podcast in 3 years' time thinking, oh yeah, that's an interesting point. But if you're not taking action, you won't be evolving. So give yourself the gift of consistency, which is something that I always used to struggle with. If I didn't get immediate results in anything, I'd just be like, oh, well, that doesn't work, does it? And just leave it at that. But then I got to a point where I was like, no, you know what? Let me see how consistent I can be. That was one of the things that I enjoyed about doing this podcast, actually, was it gave me a real sense of accountability to want to show up every week for you. So there's a little exercise that I would like you to do. If you're on the go, I appreciate you can't sit down and write, but just have a little think about it or come back to it. And in thinking about this idea of rebirth, we're in a season now of dropping these leaves, and soon spring will be upon us again, no doubt, with just how fast the years are flying. What are you going to give birth to in spring? So I'd like you to have a little think about how you would describe yourself currently. In 3 words, let's just keep it simple. Once you've had a little bit of a think about 3 words that spring to mind when you think about yourself, think about how your best friend or someone you love would describe you in 3 words. After that, have a think about any areas in your life where you feel stuck at the moment. It could be that you're struggling with being consistent. It could be that you are lacking in confidence. You've got improvements that you need to make in your health. Whatever it might be, wherever you feel stuck financially. Now, I want you to take a minute to just connect with your breath. Take a deep breath and start to connect with that future vision of yourself. So think about yourself a good 5 to 10 years ahead of now. In an ideal situation, where would you be? What would you be doing? Who would you be with? What kind of work would you be doing? What kind of projects would you be creating? You'll have an idea in your head of what would be an ideal future vision for yourself. So spend a little moment just thinking about that. If you are writing down, write it all out. Where are you going on holiday? Where do you live? Are your friends still the same, or do you have a new friendship group? What's your family situation like? What's bringing you joy? Really connect with that highest vision for yourself. And now, once you have connected with your greatest potential, I want you to have a think about what sits between you and that highest version of yourself. Why are you not there yet? What's stopping you from becoming that version of yourself? Maybe it's limiting beliefs. Maybe you've conjured up this beautiful vision for a future, but you're doubting that you could ever really get there. What's the doubt? Why is it not possible for you to become that version? Once you've got an idea of what sits between you and her, have a think about what personal behaviours you need to let go of this year to move closer to that vision, that future version of yourself. Perhaps it could be financial difficulties that are stopping you from getting closer to where you want to be, in which case, make a promise to contact a debt advisor and do it today. Bite the bullet. Maybe your health isn't where you need to be to get you to that highest vision for yourself. Maybe you need to make a meal plan for the next week that includes all the nutrition and hydration to support you to that version of yourself. Or it could be an exercise plan to make sure you are the strongest and healthiest version of you. It might be that you're in a job right now that you're not enjoying and it doesn't tie in with that strong future vision of yourself. Maybe it might be a good idea for you to set some time aside to make a list of all the requirements that you would need that would create that ideal career situation. Make a little job vision board. Think about all the aspects that need to be in place for you to feel like, yeah, this is the job that I'm excited to get up to and go to in the morning. Or maybe you've got a dream of starting your own business, in which case, if you know what you want to do, start having a look at some competitors, start doing some competitor analysis, see what you can learn from people who are already out there doing what it is that you want to do. With any of this work, it all starts with just connecting in with yourself, creating a vision in your mind's eye. From the vision, you can create a plan. And once you've got a plan, then you just need to take consistent action. This is not rocket science. It's just about being willing to give that highest version of you a chance. Sis, 10 years ago, I was wrapped with debt. Today, I'm debt-free. 10 years ago, I was in a career that was not aligned with me. It was making me miserable. I hated it. I hated getting up in the morning. Today, I work for myself, doing work that makes a difference. Like 11 years ago, I was in a toxic, abusive relationship. Now I am married to a gentleman who, despite everything we've been through, our love just keeps getting stronger and stronger. 4 years ago, I was deemed as being infertile, going through failed IVF. Today I'm a mum to an amazing 3-year-old. A few years back I was riddled with depression and anxiety. Now I'm free from my mental health challenges. A few years back I didn't have a consistent daily practice to support me. Now if I miss a day of meditation, I feel I've killed her. 2.5 years ago I thought my life was over when I sustained my spinal cord injury, losing a lot of my bodily function along the way. Now I'm rebuilding my life in the highest vision of myself. Sis, a few years back, I wouldn't have believed it if you'd have said that I would have been appearing in a global advertising campaign for Barbie. I wouldn't have believed it if you'd have said that I'd be living in my favourite area in London. I wouldn't believe it if you'd have said that I would have founded an award-winning digital marketing agency. I certainly wouldn't have believed it back then if you'd have said in a few years' time you're going to have a mentorship with Hay House Publishing and be working with an author whose work really sings to my soul. So sis, I'm just trying to say, like, dream big. The universe is listening. There's no reason why in a few years' time you can't be writing your own story of your transformation. So one final activity that I'd really like you to do is a journal prompt. So when you've got some time, sit down with your journal and I want you to write out, 6 months from now, I will. What will be different between your experience now to where you're going to be in 6 months' time? Now, 6 months isn't a huge period of time, but you can start making some small changes now to move you towards that. So then we'll take it a little bit bigger. 2 years from now, where will you be? What's going to be different? And 5 years from now, where will you be? Undoubtedly, resistance is going to start calling you out on some stuff, but the resistance is just trying to drag you back to the old patterning. Don't get concerned with that. Just lock onto the vision and the potential. My sis, today is the day that you start mentally visualizing your future best life. Start creating in your mind's eye that version of you that is going to make sure that you just have the most incredible life experience possible. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Curl Power podcast. If you know anybody else that is stuck in a rut and they benefit from this content, please do share it with them. If you would like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, I am working with a limited number of women to help them deprogram, heal the past, and really step into the most beautiful possible future. You can drop me an email. The link will be in the show notes. Let's have a chat and see what we can do to help you really step into that most powerful version of yourself. If you'd like to support me as an independent creator, you can do so using the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is also in the show notes. It's buymeacoffee.com/Curl Squad. Don't forget to drop us a rating and review if you're feeling the content. Follow me on Instagram at zoe.e.fox. And on that note, I shall leave it right there and let you continue to visualize the most amazing future. Big love, girlfriend. Peace out. And I will catch you next week.